Okay, today we're continuing the learning this week's Torah reading, which is called Chukat. And Chukat, it begins with the laws of the red cow, and then it goes on to the death of Miriam, and consequently the disappearance of the water, the big boulder that would go with them and provide water for all the people. And now God said, Moses, don't worry. He goes, the people complained. And then God said to Moses, don't worry, just talk to the rock. And Moses tried to talk to the rock, but nothing came out. So he struck the rock and there came out water. And God said, I told you to talk to the rock. You shouldn't have been influenced by the pressures of the Jewish people. Therefore, you're not going to go to the land of Israel. That's it. You're not going to go in. and also, and then after that, Aaron, in fact, dies. He goes up to this mountain called Hor Hahar. And then after that, the Jewish people go traveling backwards. It says they traveled backwards. And they started complaining. And that's where we are now. They went from this place, Hor Hahar, by Derech Yam Suf, through the Yam Suf, Yisvovet Eretz Adom, to go back to the land of Adom, Patikatzar Nefesh Am B'derech, and the people got angry on the road. Why did they get angry? Here I have a map over here. I don't know how much this is worth. Let's see if we can see the map. Seems like this. The Jewish people left Egypt over here. According to this map, there were 42 journeys in the desert. And they went over to, they're traveling all around the place. This is 40 years, right? They're traveling around. Miriam and Aaron, they died right near the end of the 40 years of the journey of the Jewish people in the desert, right near the end. So they get over here to, where is it? To Hor Hahar. I can't see. Maybe I'll make this bigger over here. Huh? Anyway, I think according to this map, Hor Hahar is found over here somewhere. Or in any case, whatever it is, they got to this place, let's suppose it's here, and they turned back and they went 8 more journeys. And the Jewish people are saying, hey, what's going on over here? We were already here. Just let's, go into the Holy Land. Let's just go in, but they didn't. One second here. See here. It's not a very accurate picture at all. Anyway, this is where they went in. This is the place where they went. So he says, we were over here. We could have gone in. Why do we go backwards in this direction? So the Jewish people were complaining. Supposing this picture is accurate. Here we go. So it says, since that Aaron died, this is Rashi, since Aaron died, and there came on this war. Remember, we said as soon as Aaron died, the clouds of glory went away, the protective clouds, and the Canaani attacked them. And the Canaani, that was Amalek, and they had to fight, and they won. They won the battle, but still, it sort of shook them up a little bit, And therefore, they said, because this war came, and the battle, Chazru Lachrem, they went back by this Yam Suf. This is the way that they went back when the spies came in there. Like it says, Yam Suf. Anyway, here they went backwards 7 journeys. Like it says, they went from Bnei Yakon, another place. You can look and see. And so therefore, they went back these 8 journeys. And the people said, but we're going too long. To go from Israel to Egypt, it should have taken us like 1, 2 journeys, 3 journeys at the most. We're already schlepping on for 40 journeys. It's too much. Shehuk Shalem, they said, we were just about to go into the land of Israel. And now we're going back. All right. This is what our fathers did. That's what they generation that left Egypt, they also were decreed that they had to wander around for 40 years. So when that decree was made, after 2 years, right, the Jews had already been out of Egypt for 2 years, and God said, the beginning of the second year, they said, okay, now you can go into Egypt, to Israel, and they said, we don't want to. So God said, okay, you don't want to? So Israel wandered around for 38 years until this very day. Therefore, the people were very angry. It's not that we've been wandering around just for 8 journeys. We've been wandering around. Our parents were wandering around in this desert. Okay, so it says that they all got angry. All right, Rashi just proves this point. And we have the Dat Zakanim. The Dat Zakanim says that it says that Tiksar Nefesh Am, the people, they got very, impatient. Since they saw that they went back, same thing that Rashi said, in the desert. So it was very, very difficult for them, come of it like death. Till Sforno, they thought that they would go into the land of Israel immediately, and they could eat from the produce of the land. And now they have to be stuck here in the desert. But in mind, there's no water and there's no food. Says, what do you mean there's no water and there's no food? That's what we're going to see here. It says, Ki ein lechem ve'ein mayim. Next sentence, we haven't got any bread and we haven't got any water. V'nafshu katzah, and our soul is disgusted, b'lechem ha'kalalkel, in this light bread that we're eating. So I said, what do you mean they didn't have any bread and they had bread? What do you mean? They had man. They had man from heaven. Hari oil and man. And water for sure they had from the rock. L'chach, therefore, says, Nefshi kasher b'lechem ha'kalalkel. They said, okay, you're right, we have bread. But the bread is so thin and light. What do you mean it's light? It says it tasted like whatever. It satisfied everybody. It's because people couldn't see what they were eating. It would taste like whatever they wanted to. If you wanted the bread to taste like the manna, to taste like steak. You want it to taste like ice cream, whatever you wanted, it would taste. They could taste anything they wanted, but they couldn't see it. It tasted like a steak, but it didn't look like a steak. It always looked the same. It was sort of like cotton candy, sort of, because they couldn't see what the thing was. Therefore, you couldn't see the thing that they were tasting. Therefore, it was not considered to be anything in their eyes. That's one way of saying it. That's what they were. Also, you told me that they couldn't taste a good taste until Shayu Torchimbo. They wouldn't really taste the good of it because they didn't have to work on it. At least they had to grind it up or something like that. And that's also what it says, Kasibbe, the Tamu Katam Hashemet, that after they ground it up and they did these things that tasted. But the barrel came, so the people spoke against Moses and against God and against Moses. And they said, Lama helitanu, why did both of you, God and Moses, why did you bring us up from Egypt? Lamut b'mibar, to die in the desert? Ke'ein lechem ve'ein mayim, there's no bread, normal bread, and there's no water. V'nafshenu katzam v'lechem la'kalalkel, and we're disgusted by this light bread. What does it mean, light bread? You're going to see Rashi has a little bit different explanation. We see, first of all, that you, Moses, and God took us out here. We see that they equated the servant to his master. Moses and God, they said were the same. Why did you take us out of Egypt? Both of them equally. Nafshenu katsa. It says our soul is short, and we're impatient. We can't stand it anymore. It says, what is it? Nafish v'ma'os. It's disgusting to us, this bread already. What's wrong with the bread? So he said the thing wrong with the bread is you couldn't see what you were eating. But Rashi has a little bit of a different reason. The man, this manna was immediately digested. It was swallowed up into the limbs totally. So it's called klokel, light. In other words, one day we're going to have to go to the bathroom, and we've been wandering around for 38 years. We haven't gone to the bathroom at all. It says that people did go to the bathroom, but the ones that went to the bathroom, because there's a sentence that says that when that everybody should have like a shovel with him, and when you go to the bathroom, so go outside of the camps, and then you can go to the bathroom. So if they did go, so it says, no, those are the people who bought food, or they bought food from others. Excuse me one moment. Hello. Ken. טוב, אני באמצע שיעור, סליחה. Supposed to pick up my grandson, and now they're changing it. They don't have to pick up my grandson. He comes on his own. So sort of changing of the guard. Here we go. Good. So it says that it's coming. One day we're going to have to go to the bathroom, and we've got 38 years of whatever it is that we have to release, because where is it gone all this time? There's no such thing as a person that just takes in and he doesn't put anything out. So they were worried, they were scared. Which is, I mean, actually, the thing about it is pretty ridiculous. I mean, after a person went for like a week and he sees that he has no necessity to go to the bathroom, so stop worrying. What he's doing now, all of a sudden they're saying, no, we have 28 years of bathroom inside of us, right? Of the need to go 20, that's ridiculous. If they had to go to the bathroom, so after a week, 2 weeks, they would feel the pressure, no pressure whatsoever. So all of a sudden they start worrying, we got 28 years, it's ridiculous. But nevertheless, they had nothing else to do. They were bored. They were wandering around. The only real, how do you say, the diversion that they had was to make trouble for Moses. It says, Klaukel, this is the numerical value of 248. How is that so? It's 260. That it was swallowed up into their 248 limbs. No, I'm sorry, the gematria of Zeh Ramach. It's the gematria of Zeh Ramach. 248 plus 12 is 240. What's 248? The number of limbs in a person. So it got swallowed. Anyway, they were complaining about Moses, making trouble for poor Moses. He had absolutely didn't do anything wrong. Here the Kli Yakar says like this. All right, we'll see this later on. But what's going to happen now? So God says, okay, I had enough of this complaining. We'll see if we can go back to this. God says, Vayishlach Hashem ba'am et nechashim asrafim. God sent on the Jewish people snakes that were burning, like serpents. They had fire coming out of their mouths. V'yenashchu et ha'am. They bit the people. V'yamos amra b'Yisrael, and a lot of people died. What does it mean? Here he says that they were burning. What does it mean they're burning? Not that fire came out from their, we'll see others that say yes. But shesorfim et adam ba'eres shineim, that they burned people with the poison that came from their teeth. A snake, right? A snake has poison in his teeth, right? They bit people. Yavon nachash shalaka al hotzad diba. God said, I'm sending you exactly the punishment that fits the crime. Your crime is that you're speaking bad. You're saying bad things about the manna that's falling. You don't appreciate the manna, and you even say it out loud. So you're putting out what's called lashon hora. You're making a bad name for the manna that's falling down. So I'm going to pay you for the same thing. The snake will come. But what's a snake? A snake, first of all, there's two things. Number one, the snake was, as we all know, involved in the sin of the tree of knowledge. And it brought death into the world. How? By convincing Chava, Eve, with his mouth. But there's another thing about a snake. It says somehow or other, I don't know, they know this fact, but it's a fact that a snake, everything tastes the same to a snake. So a snake that everything tastes the same should come and pay for the people who are ingrates, ingratitude, that everything that they ate tasted different and they don't appreciate it. Here he says, because the BalHaTurim, because they did the work of the snake, that they said bad things about the man. And where it says that et hanachashim, it could have said Vayishlach Hashem ba'am nechashim surafim. What does it mean? Et it means something in addition. It says, what does it mean in addition? There was also dogs and wild animals were sent. Okay, that's the BalHaTurim says. Okay, here the Kli Yakar says like this. It says one time that God sent snakes, another time that he sends these serpents. So it says, God said to Moses, okay, listen, the Jewish people are speaking negatively about me and about you. God was talking to Moses all the time. The Jewish people are saying that me and you, Moses, are bad. We're trying to kill them. So God said, that they talk about against me, al shari umachol, I forgive. But that they talked about you, it said, I'm not going to forgive that. What they said against you, you have to make a suraf. That's what he said. Here. God went, the snakes were biting everybody. So God said to Moses, make yourself a serpent and put it on this pole. And whoever gets bitten will live. So he said, God told Moses, because of what they said bad about you, make a serpent. This corresponds to Moses. Moses said exactly the opposite. He said, listen, God, what they're talking against me, I'm already used to it. I forgive them. But that they talked about you, me out there, I can't let that go. Therefore, I'm making a snake to forgive what they said about you. And God told Moses, make a serpent to bring forgiveness what they said about you, Moses. So Moses was worried about God's honor, and God was worried about Moses' honor. Okay, he explains. Good, he explains what's the difference between says the main thing is that Lashon Hora, speaking bad things, it burns up. It's a terrible thing. And whether he's speaking against Moses or he's talking about against God. But Moshe, okay, let's go back. Ready? So it says, Moshe, the people went to Moses. And they said, Chatanu. We realized we made a mistake. Of course, they realized all of a sudden these serpents are coming and biting everybody and killing everybody, and there's nothing they can do against them. So they went to Moses and said, listen, Moses, we realize we made a mistake. We sinned because we spoke against God and you. Okay, please pray to God and remove for us these snakes. And Moses prayed for the people. Now Moses could have said, yeah, I'll pray for you. I just have a little something to do at home. And then, take a little shower and I'll come up. And meanwhile, everybody's dying. He says, listen, I'm not killing you people are speaking, you tape it to our sinners. You're speaking against God. You're speaking on me. Now all of a sudden you want me to help you? So Moses didn't say that though. He said, V'yitpalel Moses. Immediately he started to pray. From here we learned that if one asks from you forgiveness for something you did, that you should not be cruel and refrain from forgiving. Vayomer Hashem Moshe, So God said to Moses, Moses prayed, and God answered him and said, okay, you want to save the people? Listen carefully. Make yourself a serpent, put the serpent on a pole, and anyone that is bitten will look at this serpent and he'll live. A nace means a pole, al colonus, that they call pikra, anyway, a pole. And he brings a source for the word. Now you have to realize over what's going on. Rashi is receiving a Torah that hasn't got any punctuation. It's all that they have to remember from the previous generations what it means. Rashi received. And there was a lot of confusion. And that's why Rashi is coming to clarify exactly how to punctuate everything and exactly what the words, exactly what they mean. So here we have, it says, put it on a nace. The word nace means a miracle. Also sometimes means a flag. Here he says, no, it means a pole. Also, Rashi was an expert in all of the Talmud and everything. Now, Rashi was born, I think, like 400 years before there were printing presses. So all of the Talmuds had to be handwritten. And that's why they were taught from one person to another. There was big schools, and people would sit and they would learn the Talmud, accurate versions of the Talmud, and they would copy it over also for themselves and for others. So it says anyone that was bitten would live. It says anyone who was bitten, even if a dog or a donkey bit a person, a donkey bite, they say, is worse than a dog bite. You ever see that? Donkey bite. And some people have donkeys to protect their flock. They can be really, very vicious. As Hayanizuk umitnavna olech. Any person that got bit by any one of these things, that he would start to shrivel up. But I'm sorry. Anyone who gets bit by anything, that bite can have rabies or whatever, and it can make the person sick and die. But a snake is the fastest one that kills. A snake has special poison in its fangs, a poisonous snake, that can kill a person almost immediately. Therefore, it says over here, anyone that looked at the serpent, of this copper serpent that was on that Moses made, he would live. It says therefore, but if it says that if a person was bitten by one of these snakes, then it wouldn't hurry up to kill the person. If he just looked, then he wouldn't die, but he would still be sick. If he really gazed at this snake on the pole, then he would get healed. The rabbis say a snake kills or a snake heals. But the time when the Jews looked toward heaven, this is what we're learning in the Mimer in the morning, right? When the Jewish people looked toward the heaven and they connect their hearts to their Father in heaven, as they would get healed. And if not, then they would gradually wither away, and die. Sforno says that Moses put a serpent. It said it was the serpent that he made was michomer, from a substance moresh sarfa kadesh shekavna al srefato. He made it from copper, because copper sort of shines in this sort of fiery way. It sort of changes colors. That the snake actually had fire. It says from the breath of his mouth. Rashi said it came from his teeth, but he said that it came from his mouth. There was fire that came out. That was the seraph. And that because of their sin, namely that they spoke against Moses and God, the bad things that came from their mouth. So the snake killed them with the fire that came from his mouth. Moses made nechash nechoshet. He made a copper snake, and he put it on a pole. And it was, now God didn't say to make a copper snake. He just said to make a snake. And anyone that looked that a snake bit, as he would gaze at the snake and he would live. So that's what Rashi said, that if you just looked at the snake, it says, just looked at it, then he would live. He wouldn't die, but he would be sick, remain sick. And if he beat, then if he looked at it, if he beat, then he would come back to be alive like he was before, healthy. Why did Moses make the snake from copper? Lo ne'amar lo, God did not say to make it from copper. Elo Omar, Moshe said, God called it a nachash. I will make it from nechushet. Lashon nofel lashon. Because I have to make it from something. So nachash is something like the word nechushet. Nechushet means copper. Sforno said, after Moses understood kavanat kono, what God wanted, kono means God. He schemed, Moses agreed, la soto shel nechushet. He agreed to make it from copper. The lo shel zav, not from gold. Kadeshi yazkir lehem avonam, to remind them their sin, mitzad mara hachomer, because of the color, b'shmo, and its name, v'tavniso, and its form, because they did the nachash, namely speaking against God, what the snake did, the serpent did with its mouth, that it kills with its mouth, or according to Rashi, with the poison that comes from its mouth. So to remind them that that was the cause of their sin. And they looked at the serpent and they became alive. All right, here's an interesting story, but we don't have that much time, but we'll do it anyway. The Jewish people traveled and they went to a place called Ovot. And they went from Ovot and they went to Iye Ha'averim in the desert, which is near Moab on the east. And from there, they went to Nachal Zored. And from there, they traveled to Me'aver Arnon, to the bypass of Arnon, which was in the desert, which came on the boundaries of the Amorites. Arnon, this place Arnon, is the boundary of the Moab, between Moab and Amori. Moab and Amori. Okay, there was it went between sort of like two mountains. Therefore, it says in the book of Wars of God, it says, as Vahev B'sofa. Vahev means that God gave them something in the end. That the Nachalim are known. Vahev means we'll see what God gave them. Yahav Kolomer. Et Asher Yahav, that which God will give them a lot of miracles. B'yam Suf. And B'yam Suf, it says, Vahev B'sufa. There were a lot of miracles that God did at Yam Suf. That was, remember, they drowned all the Egyptians. And Anachalim are known. And also what happened, just like the miracles that God did on Yam Suf, what they call the Red Sea, also people will relate the miracles that happened in this river of Arnon. Also, here were big miracles. What were the miracles that God did? What did he do over here? What type of miracles? So it says, Eshed Anachalim. Eshed means like the produce, what was poured out from this river that Natal Shevas are V'nish'an L'Gevul Mo'av. So this is what's going on over here. I'll explain it to you and then we'll see it inside. The Jews were traveling and there was this rock, right, that Moses hit, and all this water was coming out of it. Well, when they went over this river, the river ran between two big mountains. Between two big mountains. The two big mountains, you could stand on one mountain and call to somebody on the other side of the mountain. And it happened to be that each mountain had caves, and opposite those caves were big protrusions on the other mountain. The Amorites on one side, the Moabites on the other side, they said, the Jews are passing between us. Let's us hide in the caves, and when the Jews come through, we'll throw big boulders on them and kill them. Pretty good idea. And they hid. But God made a big miracle, and before the Jews even got there, so the mountains closed, they shut. And then they opened up, thereby crushing all of the soldiers that were in the caves on each side. And then, meanwhile, there was all these blood and limbs and everything falling down from the mountains, and it fell into the river. Well, this rock that was of Mount Moses that was producing all this water, so it flooded, it inundated the river, and it rose up with all these limbs of these people. And everyone all of a sudden realized what an amazing miracle that occurred. So let's have a look. It says that there was this nishpach sham dam, that from the river that ran, there was all the blood of the Amorites that were hidden over there. Because the mountains were very high and the river was deep and short, that was narrow. And the mountains were right next to one another. A person could stand on one side and he could call to his friend on the other side. And the way that the Jews were traveling was between these two mountains, right? They had to sort of walk in this sort of river stream. Right? It was shallow. So the Amorites, they said, when the Jewish people go into this stream, which is between the two mountains, then let's kill them with all sorts of, we'll shoot arrows down on them and big boulders. But it just so happens that the side that they were hiding in, so the Moabites weren't hiding on the other side. It was only Amorites, and the caves that they were hiding in, on one side, on one side there were also Otan and Nikaim Bahar Shel Tzad Moav, and the side of the Amorites there was sort of like protrusions that were sticking out. As soon as the Jews began to go over, suddenly there was this earthquake, and the mountains closed. Hahar shel Eretz Yisrael ki shifcha hayotzes lahagbil penei givirta. All of a sudden, the mountain that was on one side that had all these protrusions, it went into the other side where all of these caves were, and it went in and crushed everybody there. And that's just like I told you, just like I said. It said from there, Be'era, Hiya Be'era Asher Amar Hashem LaMoshe. Yes. From there was this well, the well of error. This is the well that God said to Moshe, Asaf et ha'am ve'etna lehem mayim. This was the well, the bear of Miriam that Moses struck, right? The well of Miriam that Moses struck to bring out water. So now it was bringing out water, and it flooded this. God said, who's going to let the Jews know these big miracles? It says that there's a saying that if you give a child food, right? Let's say a child, your next door neighbor's child, he's hungry, and the parents, for whatever reason, aren't home. You give him food, so it says you should take a little bit of the food and you should smear a little bit of it on his lip or something like that. So when his mother when he comes home, he says, who smeared that food? He says, oh, Mr. Groys, he gave me some food. And so she'll say, "Wow, Mr. Gross is a really nice person. Really, thanks a lot." After the Jews went across, the mountains returned back to where they were, and all of a sudden rose up in the river all the blood and etc. in these places. And the Jewish people saw it, and they sang this beautiful song. Az Yeshur Yisrael, the Jewish people sang a song, and they said, Ali Bear, raise up well, Anu Lo, and answer us. In other words, let us know the big miracle that was there. The Be'er, the well, Chafru Sarim, that was dug by the princes, who was that? Moses and Aaron. They were the ones that struck the rock and made this well of Miriam. Kuru and Am. It was by the, how do you say, the generous ones of the people. Again, with their staffs. And from the Midbar Matana, from the desert, God gave them this big gift, namely that He saved their lives. And then they went from Matana and Nachliel Bamot, etc. And this is where the Jewish people reached. Now, after that, but we don't have time to do it today, is the war against Sichon. Sichon, that the Jewish people had to fight against Sichon. It says that he was, I don't know, like the 4 stories high or something like that. He lifted up a mountain. Whole long story with Sichon, but we do not have time to do it. Look at it yourself. Tomorrow we're going to do, God willing, the Haftorah, the story of Gilad. Interesting story. No, is that right? Is that right? One second. Or Yiftach. 1 minute. Yes, Gilad. I'm sorry. That's why I made a mistake. It's a story of Yiftach, but he came from Gilad, Yiftach Giladi. And Yiftach, he's going to save the Jewish people. Strange story. He had a lot of opposition, just like Moses did, and he's going to save the Jewish people. And there's going to be a big song over there that he's going to sing. Big song, which is similar to the song that we just talked about now. Now let's learn a little bit of Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers.